So today I'm going to show you how to make a headband with some buttons on it. So there was a woman who's a nurse in our town at one of the local hospitals, and she had requested to have somebody make some headbands so that she could take the elastic from the surgical mask and loop it around some buttons instead of around her ears because it was bothering her. So because I do a lot of work on making my own athletic wear, I decided to try and put together a pattern for that. So it's pretty easy. Let me show you first what you need to do this. First you need some material, and the material is kind of important. You want an athletic type material that has Lycra in it, so that has stretch in both directions, this way and this way. I don't think cotton knit would work as well. I think you want the athletic type. So that's usually like a nylon based or a swimming suit material. A lot of times you'll see it in fabric stores as described as supplex. And that's the kind of material that usually like your Lululemon kind of leggings will be made out of. So you have that. And then you need to cut it out into rectangles, and I use a rotary blade and a mat. I think it's just faster. And you want to cut them into rectangles that are 4 inches long on one side and 18.5 inches long on the other side. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so I've already pre-cut a bunch of the fabric into those rectangles. And just to show you really quickly with a piece, this rectangle, the first step that you're going to do is fold it in half this way so that the outside, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to record some more. So you take your rectangle of fabric. This is I'm going to have the blue, in this case, the navy blue on that's the outside material. So you want it like that. So I'm going to take that and fold it in half so that inside part is on the inside of your loop. And then you're going to sew across it. So I'll show you a little bit closer. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to start. So I've got my rectangle cut. I'm going to have the white side be the inside of the headband that goes against the head, and I'm going to have the dark blue side be the outside that shows. So the first thing you want to do is fold that in half. And you're going to sew about a 1/4 inch seam going down. So you don't have to have a fancy sewing machine. You can just use a regular sewing machine. It's going to have to go through a whole bunch of layers, so you want to make sure you can do that. But you don't need a special serger or anything. You just need to have a straight stitch. So you go forward a little, back a little, and then forward. And so for stretch material, you don't want to pull it while you're sewing, but I do kind of want to, it's very forgiving, but I do want to just kind of hold it as I go through to try and keep it as close to being together as possible. The nice thing about this pattern is you don't have to be really, really perfect on it. So again, a back and forth at the end. That's the first step. And then I'm going to trim my edges here. All right, and now that I've done that, I am going to, so when I do it, I actually like to do, multiple ones at a time, 10 or so, and you just, as you get to the end, you just stick the next one in and go through that, and then the next one, and so forth. But you don't have to do that. So then you want to turn it inside out, outside in, and well, actually, so you just kind of you have it like this. And I like to fold the seam allowance over to one side. And then we're going to do a little bit more folding. You're going to fold one side up to about halfway, the other side down to about halfway. And leave a little bit of space here to sew it, or to allow for that the last fold. So there, let me show you those folds again. So you take the top side down to about halfway, you take the bottom side up to almost halfway, and then you fold the two together. All right, and then I just kind of clean it up here. And then we're just gonna sew, I have the thick sides here, we're just gonna sew here on the thin part. So you put it in. The start and the end might be the trickiest part with a standard machine, but so you just do the same. You do a back and forward at the beginning and a back and forward at the end. And same as before, you just trim it. And this is actually your headband piece. So there you go. And so when someone puts it on, this is the part that goes on the top of the head, and this is the part that goes on the back. Okay, so now that you've made your headband piece, we're going to mark it out for the buttons. And so you take this seam where you've just made the seam, and you fold that, and you go to about halfway. You fold it in half. And I take this other half, this fold part, and I put it against here, and I'll show you on the other side in a minute because I know that the black is difficult to see. So then you measure off, and you can either use one of these things or another measuring tape, it doesn't matter. And you have it here, and in this case, because the fabric is so dark, I'm just going to put a little pin here to mark where the button goes. Normally I would be using a Sharpie on something you can see it in, but you've got your button placed. It's just about, so it's 4.5 inches in and about halfway in. It's not, you don't have to be perfect. Then you turn it over and you do the same thing on this side. Okay. All right, so then you have both pins marked. And then just so that you can see it, if I were doing it and it was a white piece of fabric, again, I would fold it in half, and then I actually just marked it with a Sharpie. I'm pretty close to where I was on the other side. It's, you know, like I said, you don't have to be perfect on this. It's not an exact thing. So you do that. And then where you've placed your pins, those are where you're going to want to sew your buttons, and you can do that, you know, a couple of different ways. You can do it by hand, or I do it on a machine just so that it's faster. And I won't show you how to sew the buttons here, but just know that, you know, take your button, should be about 3/4 of an inch or bigger, and sew it right on in the middle, right where your pin or your Sharpie mark is. That gives you your headband. So that's it. So thank you for watching our little video about how to make a headband for surgical masks. I'm Tiffany, and this is Morty, my son, and he was the cameraman for today. So thanks. Happy headband making.